Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by Citrix Sharefile, secure file transfer built for business. Visit sharefile.com, click on the microphone, and enter TWiST for a free 30-day trial. And by InVision. Find out why so many hot startups are using InVision to prototype, present, and collaborate on design in real time. Sign up for a 90-day free trial today at invisionapp.com/twist. And by AWS Activate, the Amazon Web Services startup program. It's easy to start and scale your business with AWS. Visit aws.amazon.com/
Hey everybody, it's Jason Calacanis, and this is This Week in Startups. It's our news roundtable, tons of news. Tinder and Instagram are monetizing. Orbital Sciences has blown up their rocket ships. Tim Cook has come out of the closet officially. And the Amazon Fire phone is a complete and utter disaster. Plus, our Bing launch of the week. Stick with us. It's going to be an amazing episode.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups. It's me, your host, Jason Calacanis. You can find me on Twitter at Jason. And, interestingly enough, you can find one of our guests on today's roundtable, Ryan Block, at Ryan. He is part of the First Name Club.
That's right.
And
represent.
You can find our other guest, Amir, on Twitter at Amir Afradi from The Information. Of course, Ryan Block was one of the co-founders of Weblogs Inc. I consider him a co-founder and the editor-in-chief of Engadget. And now he's a VP of product at AOL. And hey, welcome back to the program, both of you.
Thanks. Are you only inviting people on now who have first name?
First Name Club. At Veronica, Kevin Systrom coming next. That'll be the next episode. But so how did you get Amir? Is that you've been on for a long time, Amir?
I made a move against the
move.
person who had Amir, who violated Twitter's terms of service.
Ooh,
really?
Very nice.
He was posting selfies.
He wanted
selfies
to sell,
of you.
He wanted to sell the handle.
Oh,
to
and
the
then
highest bidder, and so I pulled some strings, got him kicked off.
And you said, "Hey, this person is squatting," and then somebody did you a favor.
I made a move.
You made a move.
I took the initiative.
Wow, I like this. This guy's like Mossad.
He took him out.
Talking about Mossad. We talked about the Mossad before we started the program.
How'd you get it, Jason?
You know.
You made a move?
I made a move. Everybody makes a move. I was actually at
I
Jason
know a guy.
Calacanis initially.
Yeah.
But then I just switched it over and, made a move. You know how it goes. All right, anyway, this is This Week in Startups. You know, it's a show where we talk about technology and what's going on in the space. And there's been a big, big week. And I think probably the biggest news out of Apple was probably that Tim Cook came out as gay, but we all knew that already. Is that a big deal? What do you think, Ryan, Amir?
No, go ahead.
I mean, it's a big deal to the gay community.
Yeah.
Huge deal. And I really liked what Casey Newton from The Verge
that was a fantastic piece.
I think it meant a lot to him, and I think the more role models, public role models that community has, the better for them.
What are your thoughts, Ryan?
I think it's important to society that we have that we're not just thinking of the CEOs of America's most important businesses as this monoculture of straight white men, which largely it is at this point still.
Right.
I think just the same way that society is starting to understand and accept the idea that everyone should be able to get married regardless of their sexual orientation.
Right.
That we should have members of the gay community everywhere in business, in government, in everything we do because they're just us.
Yeah.
I think it's really important. It kind of bums me out that it took him so long to get here.
Yeah.
But I understand, it's an extremely personal decision.
It's extremely personal. I think my take on Tim Cook not coming out earlier is like Anderson Cooper. I don't think either of those individuals felt like people didn't know. I just think they were personal individuals who just didn't want to make their personal life part of it, which I can understand. I'm not on here talking about my relationship with my wife every episode or something like that. That's private. I have it over here. What I have to say struck me is, some people were like, yawn, no big deal, but this happened the same week. I don't know if you saw the video that went viral, and we'll cut it in right here. It's very disturbing, but or we won't cut it in actually because we can't because we're doing a live show. But anyway, I don't know if you saw the Dallas airport video of like some drunk guy in Dallas who decides he's going to beat up somebody who he thinks is gay.
Yeah.
And
I
he's
didn't
like
see
yelling at him that he's an F word and gay and all this stuff. And it's just a fantastic video because it ends with a guy with a 10-gallon hat coming over who is like a 60-year-old kick-ass Texan who's like, we got a problem.
And Paul Rudd, too.
And apparently Paul Rudd, who's your doppelganger, Amir. And they all jump on the guy and just everybody's just pissed at this guy in Texas. So incredibly disturbing, but a happy ending that this guy got his face smacked into the ground and maybe a wake-up call. But can you imagine what Tim Cook, who is, not a young guy, he's got to be 60 years old or 50-something years old. Can you imagine growing up in the South gay, what his life, how hard his life must have been to keep that secret and
not just growing up in the South gay now, right?
No,
40,
in the 60s,
50 years ago.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah.
Scared for your life.
That's not an exaggeration. And for some people, that's a death sentence.
It is. You will be murdered by somebody who finds out you're gay. Like, literally, the wrong person finds out you're gay, they will kill you. And it's just, like, great to see society moving forward this way. Like, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal for some people, and then it's not a big deal. So it's a fantastic week. But I also just think he's really become I'm giving him an A+ as, like, sort of post-jobs keeping the company on track. Well, how would you
I think
rate...
that's a different.
But well, I mean, let's have that objective discussion now because
but
can I just mention
one? Can I just mention one thing, which is, did you see the tweet from Ted Cruz?
No.
I'm trying to pull up the exact tweet here.
Full paraphrase.
No, I've got it. He tweeted, "Those are his personal choices. I'll tell you, I love my iPhone." Personal choices.
Very nice.
Wow.
Yeah, super classy.
Personal choices.
Yeah, that's like.
And that's why a lot of prominent gay people who maybe haven't come out, I think they always fear, is this going to hurt my business, right? Mm-hmm. Would it hurt Oprah's business, for instance? How would it actually impact what I'm doing? And in this case, the products speak for themselves, right? And so I think there's no concern from a business perspective.
And then there's this thing like the longer you're in the closet, you kind of have to. It's almost like you're digging in your heels. Like, well, it's my personal life. So for Oprah, if she is gay, which I think most people have come to the conclusion she probably is. I mean, she's got this girlfriend with her on every episode and no husband, so it kind of looks like that. I don't know. It's, how does she do it now after 30 years of saying she's not?
Right.
Interesting. Anyway, what do you guys give his objective grade? If you can give him a letter grade, post Steve Jobs, right? So Steve Jobs is the legend, and you have to come after him. And the 2 years? It's been 2 years now? 3 years? What do you give him? 2 years. Yeah.
Good.
I think we need to give it a bit more time.
Right. That's why it's a difficult question to do right now.
It is a very difficult question.
Yeah, it's what's your final grade going to be? Is like midterm, right? This is your midterm exam.
All right. So let's answer the hard question. Let's answer the hard question.
I mean, first and foremost, he has the backing of everyone in his company, right? I mean, when you talk to anyone from Apple, they have nothing but good things to say about him. So that's positive.
That's success.
That's a good start. I think that it was very interesting to find out about some of the product challenges that they've had with the watch, where it has taken them a lot longer than they expected to get it out there. And we've written about that at The Information, where they really wanted to launch it this year and had some first hardware issues and then software issues later on.
It was going to be a Christmas gift.
Oh, yeah, it absolutely
was.
And then there were some problems, and they really had to change that. And I think I'm actually surprised that there weren't any heads that rolled, but as a result of that. But I think they just want to get it right. Obviously, it's the first time you're going into this category.
And impossible to know if Steve Jobs would have pushed people hard enough and inspired them enough to get it out for Christmas, or not. Maybe Steve Jobs would have had the same problem. So it's like an impossible question to know.
It's difficult. I think.
What about the software problems?
Right.
Though?
So I think there are some people who might argue, even after announcements that were made at WWDC and with the new iOS, that maybe they're not seeing enough progress in certain areas like maps. That there aren't a lot of new features, that there aren't a lot of things that are happening that are fascinating. Certainly there's persistent criticism of Siri and whether they're moving fast enough. whether app search is any better. They're now focusing on doing spotlight search and sort of doing a sort of universal search through the device. So there are definitely a lot of open questions. I don't really know that there's a way to answer this easily.
Yeah.
I think
what does your gut tell you?
My
Give
gut
a letter
tells me my gut tells me okay. But
no, that's a B. Okay is a B.
I will say that in the early we'll get to Apple Pay in a minute, I think.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. We were talking about building brands earlier, you and I, and it's amazing what a brand with the influence that Apple has can do in getting into new categories and the amount of influence they can have globally. And I think that even though they're not doing anything radically new or different with something like Apple Pay, they are positioning it very well in the early days, and they have done a very good job of messaging.
Yeah, and a ton of partnerships that were incredible. All right, when we get back, I want so you give a B? I don't want to speak for you. You got to give a letter grade.
I can't give a letter grade. It's too hard. I mean,
God.
Okay, doing okay.
All right, I'm going to give it a B minus then. All right, when we get back, we'll get Ryan's grade, and I just want to take a moment to thank Citrix Sharefile because in business, we are constantly collaborating with coworkers and clients and sharing files like contract spreadsheets, presentations, photos, and more. And it is essential that these important files are kept safe and secure and under your control, and that's why I recommend Citrix Sharefile, which is easy to use. And it allows you to exchange all these files quickly and securely. We use it for document lockers when I'm doing deals and making sure all that stuff is protected, and very granular controls over who can see what and change what. And we know what IP addresses saw stuff. It's really great, the auditing stuff that we have with Citrix Sharefile. And you can control that access at a very, very granular level, as I'm saying. And it all syncs automatically, and your teams are always going to have the most updated materials, and you can access it from anywhere, of course, laptops, tablets, and smartphones. So if you want to try Sharefile, go ahead and get this special offer. Get a 30-day free trial at sharefile.com and use the promo code TWiST. Just click that radio microphone button at the top and enter the code TWiST. And remember to visit sharefile.com and type in the code TWiST. It's a great product, and they've been an amazing supporter. Let's all just say thank you at Citrix at Sharefile on our Twitter handles. Okay, Ryan. Apple.
I'm back with a hat.
You're
I
back with a hat.
noticed that you have the orange and
I
black
have the orange on for, well, it's obviously it's Halloween.
Welcome to, okay, that's good.
I know, it's also San Francisco Giants won.
Yes.
Which is insane.
And I noticed, I didn't see this before, but I
Homemade
noticed.
T-shirt.
I noticed,
Look at this T-shirt.
it
Hold on a
has
second. Pull this up, Jake.
This awesome shirt.
I made it before Game 6.
So anyway, this T-shirt.
And thank God for that.
You
won because
Amir, you made your own handmade T-shirt. That makes you a super fan, correct?
I would say
Pretty
so.
much.
I would say
Yeah.
so.
And explain the shirt. 2010, 2012, 2014.
It's the players. It's the numbers of the players and coaches who share it in all three World Series titles who were on the team the whole time.
By the way, just as a Yankee fan, you get to say Dynasty when you have 10.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you're at 3.
Okay, we're on our way.
On your
Yankees
way.
fan.
But let me just also give you guys a piece of advice. Don't burn the city down. Ryan, we had a debate on this.
We can have that conversation later. We should have that conversation later.
What is going on with the city? You guys lighting stuff on fire?
What do you mean, you guys? You live here now. You got to take
know.
responsibility.
Well, I
are
did.
Are you a San Franciscan or not?
It's outside agitators. Remember, these are outside agitators who come
No,
in.
the tech country rider who's
straight
like,
hooliganism.
let me take my selfie in front of a burning thing. All right, anyway, it's too easy to beat up on TechCrunch writers. All right, let's get back to Apple. Ryan, what is your letter grade for Tim Cook since taking over?
So I pretty much agree with everything Amir said, except my understanding is that employee approval of Tim Cook is very high. There's also been grumbling about the way that product is made post-Steve, and that it's become a lot more corporate, and that it's not as design first, and there's meetings and meetings about meetings, and it's just a lot harder to get great work done, right? Apple used to be the company that privileged great work before all else, and it seems like that might, from what I'm seeing and hearing out there, that might be starting to go away. Who knows how big of a slide that is? Maybe it's just a little bit in this transition. I'll give him, B plus.
Yeah. And I think that the B is super fair. I think he's done it. I give him an A only because I think there was so much possibility for this thing to collapse on itself, because it really was being held up by Steve Jobs driving the product vision and driving people so hard.
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No, I don't. I think that's super reductive to the literally tens of thousands of people involved in building these products.
Yes, but he was the one who would say, when they brought him all this stuff, yes or no, or put it back. And so the ability to say, like, this phone is too big.
It's not a ground-up operation, right? It's not there's not a grassroots, like, things start at the very bottom. It's always been more top-down. I think that's Jason's point, right?
I think it's top-down in terms of decision-making, but I think it's bottom-up in terms of how are we coming up with these products? What are we actually doing, right? Steve is not necessarily sitting there when we had Steve 2 sit there and saying, this is exactly what I want. I want this A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and go build me exactly this thing, right? I mean, there would be bake-offs. I mean, how many different iPhone prototypes did we hear about? We saw them all. Right. It's not like the original iPhone just magically sprang forth from Steve's brain and we all had it. It took hundreds, maybe even thousands of people, numerous years. Yeah, he was a fantastic curator, but I think it's super reductive to all of the incredibly smart people at Apple to say that this was all on Steve. And I think, in fairness to Tim Cook, we see that because we're still getting great products, and Tim is not Steve, and he doesn't try to be Steve.
See, that's what I'm wondering about, though, is does removing that final curation level, right? Because this is what we're getting to. And I agree. Listen, the watch looks spectacular. But would the watch be different had Steve been there? And if so, how different, right? That's the question.
These are the hypotheticals that, like, you'll never have an answer. I don't even, care to think about these things because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter now.
Well,
all that matters is the product good.
Right. And that's...
Not how would somebody else...
Or can they finish the product?
Or can they finish it, right? Because I do think... So there is two identifiable issues here, which is that last level of fit and finish so important? And... did he drive people to a certain level, right? I guess we'll never know, or it's going to take longer to know, right? We'll know in 3 years.
Yeah, but if you think the watch is going to wind up being a 10 or 15-year product category, maybe or 50-year product category,
then it doesn't
whatever,
matter that they wait
then
another year.
6 months, I mean, that's nothing.
Right, but then let's say the product decisions, like that little crown, I just thought the crown was kind of clowny. That was
I agree.
Why?
I feel like that could have
Steve
been a
Jobs
touch,
would have
like a
been
vertical touch surface.
Totally, like just go like this, and
Exactly.
I think they'll replace it. It almost reminds me of the BlackBerry like trackball that they had for a little while, and it was like, well, this thing doesn't work. Like it just breaks all the time. Like it just felt like Steve would have been like, you know what? No, like that little final like braveness to say, put that back in the can. But let's talk about Apple Pay because it's out now. Has anybody used it yet? How do you use it? Do you know how you set it up on your phone? Is it just...
You set it up in Passbook.
It's in Passbook.
You go to Passbook, which is probably a mistake that I would imagine they'll correct. But
that's why I didn't understand where to find it, because I was looking for it, and I was like, wait a second, I don't see it under the Apple Utilities. Shouldn't it be there as its own thing?
Passbook now contains basically all of your anything, right?
Profile.
Yeah, it's cards, retail cards, it's tickets, it's credit cards.
It works great for Virgin America. I've been using the Virgin America. You put me onto the beta.virginamerica.com thing that people have been using. And so I've been using Passbook for that, but that's the only thing I've ever used Passbook for. And in fact, when I got my WWDC invite, it was like in an email, and I tried to open it on my phone, and there was no way to get it from your email into Passbook. Like, the Apple operating system didn't recognize it, like when you open it, as an object that belonged somewhere else on the phone.
Well, that just depends on what email app you're using. If you're not using the Apple email app, then that's probably why.
Yeah, that was probably...
Anyway, so you load up your credit cards in Passbook. I haven't used it yet, but the way I know that it works is you just touch your phone to an NFC reader. They communicate to each other. You use the Touch ID fingerprint sensor.
It's the same NFC reader that's already out there for the touch cards.
That's right.
So it's no different of an experience than touching your card. Have you guys ever used that touch card thing?
Yeah.
No.
You've used it?
I've never used it.
Yeah. So it's going to be the same experience as that, except Apple gets credit for it. Is there any other layer of awesomeness to doing it? Because for me, I don't feel the need to even set it up now.
Yeah, so I'm also not compelled immediately to use something like that. I'm in full disclosure, I'm an Android user. But which obviously there's Google Wallet for that, but we can talk about that later. There's no super compelling use case other than, you can have your receipts digitally stored and it's all right there. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. they have definitely been considering and thinking about things like a loyalty program, giving you incentives, right, to use this service, giving you some value out of it besides.
Which is why everybody uses a Starbucks app. I ask people, like,
Exactly.
why do you bother
That's
using
exactly
a Starbucks
right.
app? And they're like, oh, I think you get like a upgraded size and you get free syrups. I mean, they're coming up with 1,000 different ways to get you to use
point system, something, right? There has to be an extra layer to it. And I have to bring up a story that I wrote this week, because if we're thinking about replacing credit cards or debit cards, why not replace all the other cards that we have? And so there's definitely been a lot of discussion about using the same Apple Pay technology to get inside a secured building, for instance. And what's interesting is that when we think about the watch that's going to come out, it's actually going to be a lot easier to just touch the watch up against an NFC reader rather than pull your phone out, right? Just tap your little watch.
Oh, no, I think what they said was you had to authenticate with your thumbprint at the start of the day.
Right.
And as long as your watch had been synced since that time, you would be able to use Apple Pay with just the watch.
And the watch, if I remember correctly, it knows your heartbeat, right? It knows heartbeat patterns, so it knows that it's actually you based on your heartbeat patterns. There's a heartbeat biometric.
Of course,
I think they said.
No,
if
there
they
is.
didn't, if they didn't, no. I mean, I know that there is. Yeah. I don't know if they actually support that 100%. I think they said that they did that.
I'm not sure that that's one of the factors, but
it's not the factor yet. But I know they're doing heart rate, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, like, if it no longer detects the heart rate, then it has to re-authenticate, right? If you've taken the watch off, re-authenticate.
So one thing I just have to mention is in finding out about the kind of NFC technology that's in the iPhone, it uses the same standard of communication that happens when you use the BART system, the transportation system here in San Francisco. So with a switch of a button, they can enable that to replace your Clipper card that we use here in a heartbeat. So we should definitely expect that. It might take longer to get to a situation.
There is a big brother aspect to this that I'm starting to sense, which is you're not going to be able to use BART or like certain things without having this, and then. Or, it's going to be inconvenient. And they're really going to know exactly where you are at all times.
Who is the they in that sentence?
That's, I guess, the question is, I guess the NSA, if they've hacked this, which the NSA is kind of pissed off that they can't hack the new iPhone 6, I guess, or the FBI said they were upset.
Right, because it's got device encryption on by default.
Yeah. And Apple is coming out saying, we are going to be the privacy company, Google is going to be the advertising company. They've drawn that line in the sand. But if I'm the FBI... and I could crack the iPhone 6 hardware, the first thing I would do would be come out and say, I am really pissed off that I can't break this encryption publicly.
Well, I mean, you're either pissed off because you're genuinely pissed off, or you're pissed off because, you're going to say that no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is?
Well, I mean, I don't think that they have a crack for it now, but I think that they're probably working feverishly on it. I'm sure they've got all their best teams trying to figure out how to get into Google and Apple's encrypted on-device encryption.
I was going to say, I know people hack into you, Jason, because you're a VIP.
My phone number.
You're a VIP, but most of us aren't really that important.
They really don't want to know that Amir's taking the BART.
I'm not important enough for the NSA, so
you guys don't feel any security concerns around the watch? Like, does the watch add any more privacy concerns? I guess not.
No, not for me.
Not for the phone is the same. Yeah, no, on that issue, the person hacking my phone, it was my old phone number, and I purposely don't have voicemail set up on it. So it's pretty easy to hack. You can spoof a phone number. But I thought they fixed that after the phone hacking trial.
Is that what they did? They spoofed your number?
They spoofed that they were calling from my number, and
reset.
star 86 did, and then just reset my voicemail and put an outgoing message on it like, hey, we're super fans, and we want you to invest. Check out our startup. And I was like, do you know how serious the feds take this? And do you know what happened to Aaron Schwartz? God rest his soul. Like, this poor soul they just absolutely destroyed his soul and crushed him because he did something, and what's going on in the UK. Like, people go to jail for this stuff, and it doesn't matter if I want to prosecute or not. Like, I'm not going to prosecute some poor kid who was just overzealous. But also you're inspiring a bunch of other people to, like, maybe take this as a route. So I was actually very concerned about that kid hacking my phone. I don't know, what do you guys think of it?
I'm concerned that he might be Israeli.
Oh, really? Think it's Mossad?
No, I'm just kidding.
They're coming in? Listen, everybody knows that I spend a little bit of time in the Mossad. It's part of the Freedom of Information Act. They pulled my service has been pulled out.
No, I'm saying right. I don't want him to be Israeli because I am, so.
All right, hey, let me just take a minute here to thank InVision because I use them every day when we're modeling and building inside. Chad, who's my very talented designer, and Andrew, who's my very talented product manager, send me InVisions. What are they? They're just links. I load them in my phone, and then I can actually play with the 3.0 designs of Inside 3.0, which we're working on right now. That's where I spend a lot of my time on. And 300,000 designers are using this because it's so easy to use, and instead of sending me a PDF or attachments or all that kind of stuff, we do it all in a workflow system called InVision App. If you go to invisionapp.com/twist, you will learn how to make live mock-ups where you can take multiple screenshots and thread them together with click patterns and show your investors how it works. Many times I'm meeting with some entrepreneur and I say to them, hey, when you have the next version ready, send me the InVision link and I'll take a look. And then I add it to my phone, I look at it, and I get to experience the app, and it gets me closer to making a decision about investing in somebody's company. It makes it easier for me to decide what features should come in and out of the product. It is delightful. No more email chains, no more never-ending chat rooms where you're trying to figure out what people said because you have threaded comments where you can say, I want to change this, I want to change that, and put a little marker specifically on the area where you want to change something in your app. And don't take my word for it. Airbnb, Evernote, MTV, Adobe, Box, and Zendesk, and many people who are much more successful than I am are using it. Special offer for TWiST listeners, 90 days free. 90 days for free. Only at invisionapp.com/twist. Invisionapp.com/twist. It is a fantastic product. You use that? InVision, have you tried that?
I use a few other different tools very similar to InVision.
Yeah, it's just
I know lots of
critical to
people
have
who
it.
use InVision. They say it's fantastic.
Unbelievably great. And thank you to them thank you for not mentioning a competitor or an open source product. But anyway, this is a great product. It works. All right. So you also did something with Alibaba, right? Are they going to partner with Alibaba or something like that?
So
Tim was over there, right?
So Tim was just talking about his love for Jack Ma at Alibaba. I don't know exactly in what ways they can partner, but he was definitely talking about that, and he was also talking about definitely wanting to get every Apple experience made available in China. He was telling the Chinese news agency, the government-sponsored news agency, that which drew a lot of attention out there. I will say that expanding stuff like Apple Pay is going to be a challenge in many parts of the world.
Payment systems are completely different all over the world. Some people pay monthly payments. Some people go to, in Japan, they go to stores to pay their bills.
Or the point of sale systems in retail are so different as well.
Sure.
Between places like Japan, where they have a completely different Sony-based standard, proprietary standard, and then in Europe they sort of bypass the whole contactless card upgrade overhaul that we're seeing here in the United States now. So Apple Pay will take a long time to get global.
All right, let's talk about this current C. This is the competitive Walmart, Rite Aid, CVS product. Why do they feel the need to compete with Apple Pay? What is their concern? Why do they care how they get paid?
I don't think it's especially pertinent to Apple Pay specifically or Google Wallet. I think that those are two things that are definitely getting swept up in this. Mm-hmm. They've actually been public about this. They want to do damage to Visa and Visa's partners.
They want to save the Visa fees.
Visa is shorthand for all of the credit networks, right? Mm-hmm. Visa, MasterCard, Amex.
Yeah.
Discover is not a participant in Apple Pay right now, but you get the point. That's who they want to hurt in this.
And the way this product works is you print a QR code, and then the QR code gets scanned.
You don't print it. The
on
QR
your screen,
code comes up on
your
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a single-time use.
It seems very cumbersome
QR code
experience.
It's 2 steps instead of 1.
It's not. You're gonna have to unlock your phone. You're gonna have to open an app.
2 steps there.
I don't know if I haven't used it, but presumably.
Yeah, that was the thing. It was 3 steps.
You're either going to select a store or you're just going to pull up a QR code. So it's going to be a couple more steps. Look, it's not going to be that onerous. It's not going to take you 10 minutes to do. It's just,
It's definitely not going to look cool compared to just putting your phone up.
It's super lame. I have a theory that if your solution for a problem is a QR code, you've already lost.
Yeah, I think that's failure, right?
Pretty much.
QR code equals kind of failed.
Unless you're trying to put a URL on a poster or something.
Perfectly fine. If there's a billboard
QR
to play the trailer, fine.
Yeah.
But you know what I find weird? How come phones don't automatically, when you put them up, without loading an app, recognize a QR code. It just lets you know that a QR code is in the field of vision.
Because you'd have to have the camera running at all time and the image processor running at all times.
Okay.
It'd be using a lot of battery.
Got it. Okay, so that's a great reason. And nobody's going to build into the phone like a special place where you press a button to turn on your QR reader. So it's always going to be.
Apple certainly has no reason to do that. Why would they build that into your home experience?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if you lifted the phone up a certain way, like you flipped it up, it would turn on the camera for a second because it knew it was.
Jason, let me just say, it's a really good thing that you don't have Tim Cook's job.
Exactly, or anybody's job in that space. All right, listen. Microsoft released a Band, $199 fitness tracker. It looked pretty good, and it's cross-platform on Android and iPhone. This, to me, signals something.
And Windows Phone, don't forget that.
Yeah, exactly. So it is truly cross-platform.
Which is refreshing.
This is amazing, and it's the same week that they said they're releasing an API for Outlook.com, where anybody can do anything they want with Outlook as the back end, which is also very open of Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So
I have a message for them, though. They really should not launch products during Game 7 of the World Series. Not ideal.
Yeah, not ideal. Yeah. Maybe it's a dog and they launched it that way, or maybe it's not ready for prime time, but they got this out the door, and Microsoft just had a record quarter, and they laid off 3,000 people. So Microsoft seems to be continuing to print money somehow, and Nadell actually seems to be doing the right things in terms of opening the company up. What do you think?
I definitely think cross-platform is the way for them to go, and shouldn't be surprising given what Satya's been talking about. I just don't know whether anyone in the public is going to start identifying Microsoft as their personal, fitness guru.
Yeah.
I don't see that connection right away. I think it might take a long time to make that brand fit.
Right.
So I'm skeptical in general. I think it's refreshing that the approach they've taken to try to sort of be the front end and get in front of iOS and Android and sort of be the first layer of interaction. Yeah.
And I think they're bigger on a market cap now than Google again, and they printed money this past quarter. What do you think of Nadell's job so far, Ryan?
Wait, are we talking about the Band?
Well, the Band, the record revenue, and the cross-platform nature of it, opening up Outlook. Let me phrase the question this way. Should we be watching Microsoft under Nadell? Is it worth watching? Are they going to have something interesting come out of the company?
I think they've got some deep systemic issues. The Band is interesting to me because I think they're trying not to get iPhoned and Androided in the wearable space, right?
Explain what that means.
So what it means is Microsoft was arguably actually for a good couple years, they were the 800-pound gorilla in the smartphone space. They had a product called Windows Phone that was doing very well for the segment of the market that was smartphones. Post-Palm, pre-iPhone, pre-Android, It was like a two-horse race. It was Microsoft with Windows Mobile, and RIM, and BlackBerry. Then, of course, the iPhone dropped, and it was like a nuclear bomb on their business.
Yeah.
And there's that famous Ballmer quote, and there's all kinds of famous.
Nobody
quotes
wants an iPhone. Right? You look silly.
Yeah, he made fun of Android. He laughed at Android too.
Yeah.
And Ed Colligan laughing off the iPhone as well. The PC guys aren't going to come into our space and figure this out. So I mean, they totally blew that, and it took them years to come up with a product that they felt would be competitive, which was Windows Phone.
Yeah.
And by that point, they had already lost. I mean, Windows Phone, as good as it is, and I think most product reviewers think it's pretty good, it has gotten no traction, and it actually shrinks quarterly. So they're trying, I think, to get out in front of wearables.
Being cross-platform is what you mean by not getting Android. Like you can buy this thing and use it whatever phone you have. Because somebody just sent me the Motorola one from Android, and I got the Samsung Android watch sent to me to look at. And I was like, I just want to use it with my iPhone. Like, why are you making me get my Android phone out to do this? Any wearable should work across platform. It's so stupid that people are making wearables that are not cross-platform, I think.
They should, with a capital S. But it's not always possible. The thing with wearables and the thing with the Apple Watch and the thing with Android Wear is it has such deep ties to the way that the operating system works and the way that the phones need to communicate with the watch and vice versa. You can't really make them cross-platform at a certain level. You might be able to make them independent and not requiring a phone device, But to say that that you're going to get all of the value that you would be getting with the Apple Watch without the iPhone, that's not going to happen.
That's correct. And AI,
they're tied so deeply.
And so exactly, as these devices get better and do more things, the question is going to be how much integration can this band really have?
Right.
With
And
an
this is
Android
already
operating
the
system?
problem with Microsoft's band, is that it just doesn't do very much. And part of the reason it doesn't do very much is because they kind of took a lowest common denominator. We're going to do the basic things that a wearable device can do if we're going to make that totally cross-platform,
So in
which
a way,
is not a lot.
there is a monopolistic aspect to this in that you cannot make the wearable for the iPhone without you having access to the kernel and core of what the iOS operating system is.
Well, you won't be able to do payments with it, certainly. And
Right.
Things like
There's
that.
some things that are so core. Maybe
Open.
notifications as well is kind of core.
I mean, the notification stuff is kind of easy, right? I mean, you
I guess
can
that
pass
could jump the
notifications
fence. That you
between-
could pass that over.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of deep stuff that
Yeah.
happens in there as you're trying to pass data around and as you're trying to have applications interact with each other. There are a lot of challenges that you just need to own the whole banana, right? And we've seen this over and over again.
Yeah.
And sometimes eventually you can start to split things out more and more. But when it comes to accessories, and the watch is still really effectively an accessory for the iPhone, it's very hard to make an accessory function independently of a host device. That's why
Right.
they're accessories.
Right. Right. It's like a peripheral. So you have the standardization for the, USB mouse, but the watch is very new and it's very complex. So to actually make it work across platforms is hard. I get that. The other thing that came out of Microsoft that I thought was fascinating is the Surface. And I always said, like, Microsoft gets it right on between version 3 and 5. Surface 3 made almost $1 billion last quarter. It's actually, when you start hitting $1 billion in revenue, it actually becomes something that needs to be paid attention to. Is Surface going to be like the next Xbox, where it just slowly... Well, actually, Xbox, I think, was pretty quick, actually. But it feels
No,
to me...
Xbox took a long time.
It took a long time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So this could be like an Xbox type thing where, like, it gets more refined. People are crazy. I don't know if you know anybody with the Surface 3, but the Surface people really love that device. The hardware and the software work pretty brilliantly together. I don't know if you guys have used the Surface before, but I had the first one.
Yeah, I've used I think all of them.
I really liked the first one. I felt like I could carry it with me and use it. I mean, I'm a keyboard guy. I liked it a lot. But what do you think? What do you make of that? $1 billion for the Surface. After they wrote off so many. Remember, they had to do a complete write-off for the first one.
$900 million on the first
And then
version.
they have $900 million in sales. It's like, whatever, a year and a half later. So they
But
keeping
what was
with
the
it.
net profit on that?
Well, who knows? I mean, I think it's
They haven't broken out those numbers.
they haven't broken that out, but I do think that they made it a profitable product because it wasn't cheap. But I think that's a very hopeful sign as well for them. I don't know. I'm feeling like Microsoft's going to surprise people because it feels like Ballmer, now that you see that he's out of there and there was a little bit of a power struggle with Gates, like I think Ballmer could not execute on devices and apps. It was just out of his headspace. It was just too much of a paradigm jump for him to do and to maintain that money printing business. But I really feel like Nadell is like, just make stuff that's awesome and independent of the legacy. Go make that wearable thing that works cross-platform. Make Outlook the best email client it can be, independent of who uses it. Make the Surface awesome, independent of the previous operating system and using Office or whatever.
Surface doesn't change the issues that they have with being a platform for developers, right?
Right.
It's not changing that equation, which I think is still
For
their
apps,
most
yeah.
important equation, is to get
Yeah,
the best experiences, the best new experiences on their devices.
And they cut 3,000 jobs when they printed a whole bunch of money, which is really fascinating as well. But Yahoo hasn't. What are your thoughts on
Well,
Yahoo?
Microsoft's a lot bigger than Yahoo.
Yeah, but they always said, in order for Marissa to sort of make it, she would have to cut like a large number of jobs. But it seems like they had a profitable quarter now for the first time, or a little bit of growth. They've been profitable for a long time, but a little bit of growth. What are your thoughts on Marissa and Yahoo now?
Well, I don't know if they've been cutting jobs in larger chunks, but they've been known for upgrading people, aggressively managing people out, and slowly reducing, right? Instead of approving large increases in headcount in certain areas, being much more conservative with growth and even managing growth negatively.
Yeah. How long does
terms of
she
headcount.
have to turn it around, do you think?
She still has time, but I'm starting to get concerned only because it's been more than 2 years and there has been no new product. So they've revamped a lot of their existing products and made them nicer. They've introduced some new verticals in the content space, right, like Yahoo Tech and things like that. But they've been. I'm sort of waiting for their mobile search product to come out. I don't know if it's going to be this year or next year or how long. It should be soon.
That's the thing that Marissa's really working on, is this mobile search product.
Yeah,
right?
and it's been a couple of years, so I think it's really difficult to judge until we see what they do. But I know they had a good earnings report, and they even talked about having $100 million from Tumblr revenue by the end of next year, which did surprise me a little bit, more than I expected. But they're not really growing very much. We're talking about tiny growth. Still a very profitable company, but very tiny growth. And I don't know how much they're growing in terms of users. They keep talking about mobile usage growth, but that's probably email and things like that.
Yeah.
But
just getting out of their own way by actually having products in the mobile space. All right, let's just rounding out the big companies. Google, Andy Rubin leaving, and Sundar taking over everything. What are our thoughts on that? The Google changes. You've been tracking that.
I think letting Andy Rubin go is going to be. I mean, I don't think it's going to change their fates. I just think it's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
He's such a brilliant visionary. The robotic stuff that he was leading, I thought was pretty interesting turn for him.
They bought like 9 companies instantly.
This is his passion, and he basically had $1 billion to play with. Larry has this thing where he really wants to change different industries and really wants to forge ahead, change how we deal with health and medicine. On the robotics and AI side, he's like, okay, I'm going to give $1 billion to Andy and see what he can do. It's a really big problem. Something happened. We don't know yet what happened. Andy's certainly not going to say what happened. Larry's certainly not going to say what happened. But something happened that led to his departure. Maybe that'll come out. Maybe it won't.
Did he put him under Sundar?
No, he was not under. This is not a Sundar-related thing.
It's not. But it happened the same week.
It's unclear. There are some folks who are saying that there were issues with the arrangement that they had. There's a question about whether the unit was whether he had as much control over his unit as, say, Arthur Levinson at Calico, which is completely separate from Google.
Like different building, everything. Yeah.
So there are some questions about that, and hopefully we can find out. As far as Sundar, I mean, here's from Larry's perspective, it's like kind of a blessing to have this guy who's universally beloved, gets along, very collegial in the way that Andy Rubin was not, which is why Andy Rubin's not at Google anymore, not a big company guy. But yeah, Sundar taking over is not surprising, given that he basically became Larry's confidant and was dragged along with Larry to all the most important meetings that they had when they were trying to buy WhatsApp back in February and things like that. So that's not a surprise, and for people inside of Google, I think most people are very happy and expected it.
But YouTube not under his purview, they kept that independent, which is probably because Susan would probably quit if they did. So they sort of carved that out, which I thought was sort of interesting and a nod to how important she is, maybe. What was the thought there? Did you hear anything about that back channel?
I don't know about that. I think YouTube has always been just a bit more separate, right? And they sort of wanted to maintain that veil of independence.
All right. And any thoughts other than that on Google and Sundar?
No, this is the expert here. I'm going to defer to him.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the Bing launch of the week, and it's a pretty cool one because we have this hoverboard. Hey, let's switch over. Bing, bing, bing. All right. You guys know how this works. We have 3 incredible launches, and then we have you tell us what you think, and we pick a 3rd place, a 2nd place, and a 1st place. So the first one is the hoverboard. And they're saying this is the world's first hoverboard. I'm continuing to wait for this to be us being punked, but here it is. Let's play that. Boom. And this raised $410,000 on Kickstarter. It's a developer kit. The prototype stands 1 inch off the ground. This is their 18th prototype.
Imagine a vehicle with all the freedom of a car and all the efficiency
it's 4 dish-shaped hover engines creating a magnetic field which pushes against itself, generating the lift, which levitates our board off the ground. But it has to be on top of something magnetic.
That's right.
Is this related to the
floor.
skateboard without wheels thing that we saw a couple weeks ago? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
It's not the same company.
Is it? I don't know. The white box lets you operate hoverboard through mobile phone, and the final price point is unclear, but a full-size replica $499. So this is magnets.
Yeah, this is it.
Pushing it above metal. So it'll only work on metal. It's not like you're going to be going down the street with
That's
this.
right. And I think in the video they said, we think this has really great industrial applications, which is smart, right? Like you're going to roll this out maybe, in a factory floor or in a warehouse or something like that.
You make the Amazon floor metal, and this thing hovers over, and because there's no friction, maybe it goes really fast.
Could be that. Could be you can distribute things differently. Instead of putting it on a conveyor belt, maybe you just, put it on a little hover cart, something like that. I mean, I have no idea.
Or maybe airports have them. But I wonder what the weight is. Did they mention the weight in all of this? Like how much it can lift? Anyway, that's just super fascinating. I really don't understand how it works, but okay. And
magnets.
Magnets.
That's how it works.
All right, Barman. Here is it. Be a Cocktail Hero. Let's play that. Barman is also on Kickstarter. Look at all three of these are on Kickstarter. It's going to be called the Kickstarter. Here we go. So this is a 3-piece. It's a smart Bluetooth low energy cocktail creator. Tells you what ingredients you need,
how many drinks you want,
what and when to
all
pour,
you have to do is follow
and
the
how much
instructions.
ice, and how long you need to shake and stir.
An LED
And
bar
this
lights
also
up
is
as you
not,
pour. You
so it's got a
stop when the light
precision
reaches the top.
sensor.
No
See, I thought this
scale,
was like
no
going to be
measuring
stupid,
cup,
but now I'm kind of
no
like,
nothing. Just
maybe
pour
it's
and
not
shake,
stupid.
drink
Maybe
and
it's
No,
fun.
I'm sorry,
The
it's
hardest
stupid.
part of it all
It is
is
stupid,
to
right?
choose
No, it's
I should
stupid.
go on my gut
all the
reaction.
fancy cocktails
You should go with your
you
gut
will now
reaction.
be able to make
You-
and show off.
And it's going to cost $159 to teach you
Come
how to
on.
make.
I think any smart, civilized person should be able to make themselves a damn cocktail.
Just make a cocktail.
Just make a damn cocktail.
Just make the damn cocktail. You don't need LEDs to make a cocktail. And
You know,
Mary,
you know how to make
isn't-
you know how to make a Negroni or a Manhattan or an old. I mean, come on, this is not hard stuff.
And if you don't, you pull it up and you make it.
This seems like that device that's a cup where you pour Coke into it and then it tells you that it's Coke, and it has sugar in it.
It just confirms it's Coke.
Remember that product?
Yes,
yeah,
I do.
I would love to know the nutrient density or the purity or exact calorie count. Like there are some things I could see happening. Like if somebody handed you a beverage and all cups immediately told you, oh, this is the product somebody should make. And I know this is a long way off, but if you took the cup and you know the nutritional seal on the back of your Twinkies, it says like, hey, here's the nutritional information. If the nutritional information on the cup was live. So you pour a cup of coffee and it's like 5 calories. You pour in your creamer, it's like 60 calories. You put in a sugar, it's like 110.
I think there are better problems we can solve first.
Probably.
There's actually a product, if I remember correctly, it's called Drop.
Yeah.
And
That was the scale launched.
Yeah,
out.
the scale.
And that was pretty clever.
Very clever.
Baking.
For making food. Has very easy to understand implications for how you create your food and scale up certain ingredients in order to make larger quantities for varying amounts of people, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And cooking is a multi-step process, pretty hard. You want to make a Manhattan, I mean, that's 3 ingredients.
Yeah,
if you can't
go.
figure that out, you do not need to be drinking.
Exactly. You certainly don't need a $159 device. But what's interesting as well is with the scale, the Drop, if you said, hey, I want to make cupcakes, and it says, okay, you need 4 eggs, but you only have 3 eggs, you put the 3 eggs in, and it's like, okay, you only have 3 eggs, and it adjusts the flour and sugar
Exactly.
in real time. So it's like, oh, that's kind of a clever little feature that you wouldn't think of. And finally, AMPY, power your devices from your motion. Let's take a look at that. So here we go. AMPY captures your kinetic energy when you move and stores it in an internal lithium-ion battery. You use this energy to recharge your smartphone whenever you need. Charges as fast as a wall outlet. Works with iPhones, Android, and other use cases. Stores about a week's worth of physical activity with a week's worth of activity. Use it for months.
Did
And
you
so-
see that? Did you see that? Drink a lot of coffee. Shake your legs all the time, which is really unhealthy.
Right.
And hopefully you'll generate enough nervous energy to power your phone.
Okay, and there you go. So it's a little device. It looks like any of the portable Black Energy or whatever chargers, right? But I guess the motion in it moves it to create some type of energy. Okay, so work us backwards, Ryan. What is your third place, second place, and then obviously we'll know give us your third place first, and then I'll have Amir give the third place.
I'm gonna go with the AMPY. That's a dog.
It's
That's
a total
never gonna
dog.
work.
Why is it never going to work?
You can't generate enough energy from kinetic. This has been explored ad nauseum. Same reason we don't have solar panels on the back of our phones. You cannot generate enough energy.
Not enough energy. What if you put it in sneakers? Because you're taking a long stride with sneakers. So if sneakers had it in it,
There's not enough energy there.
wouldn't be able to do it.
No, you lose so much in the conversion, and then to charge a battery, which you're going to lose some energy there, and then to charge a battery off that battery.
So it's a dud.
You're gonna be walking around all day just to get a few percent. I'm not buying it.
Okay, Amir, your third place.
I agree, 100%.
All right, it's a convincing argument, but I'm going to go with the barman for my number 3. So,
well, see, as lame as that product is, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a hater.
No.
I feel guilty now.
You
That's
feel
like
bad because you're being
super haterism.
All right, let me just say this: you're not hating because it's a Kickstarter project. Kickstarter projects are meant to be fringe products. Okay, it's not like it's a real startup. It's a Kickstarter project.
So I will say, at least the AMPY, or at least the barman, that looks like it could be a working product. I am very skeptical that the AMPY could ever actually be a proper.
All right, you know what? Now I got to be
product.
with you. I'm going to go the same thing. I'm going to say AMPY's my number 3, which means we're all going to agree that barman is our second. You agree with that? And that means the hoverboard is obviously number 1.
There you go.
And there it is, folks. Your Bing launch of the week is the hoverboard winning. And I gotta see how much weight is on that. Producer Jackie, can you see if they make any claims of how much weight you can put on it, like at this point in time, and then how much energy does it use? That's the other question I have. Like, you can do a lot of interesting things with an unlimited amount of energy. Like you could make a Concorde go Mach 2 or something, but it just turns out society doesn't want to spend that much money being in a cramped little space going Mach 2. They'd rather take an extra 2 hours to go to London and watch a movie.
You might be overthinking it though, because I think the chances of you actually having a product based on this technology that you use in a consumer application is extremely low.
On the hoverboard.
The hoverboard was a marketing gimmick. The hoverboard was, we made a hoverboard based on this technology. But the technology, I think
it's been around for a long time.
It sounded pretty clear that they wanted to sell this to industrial applications.
Yeah, it's really an API kit that they're just trying to get some play for. It's not like it's... All right, let's talk about this Kindle Fire phone. This has been a complete unmitigated...
Do we have to?
It's been a complete unmitigated disaster. They're writing off hundreds of millions of dollars or something.
170, yeah.
$170 million.
So this is what's interesting is that there were lots of criticisms about Amazon's mobile strategy before. We just didn't see it actually impact earnings. So now that it has, Amazon's gotten to a point where, as I was mentioning before, they hold this very rare, very unusual event in San Francisco during Game 7. Everything happened during Game 7, obviously. Where they brought in a couple of mobile executives, including Senior Vice President
Wait, did you
Dave
go to
Lim.
that?
I did.
Because they told me, I got an invite to that too. They told me that they were canceling it because of Game 7.
They did not cancel it.
They did not cancel
They
it?
did not cancel it.
They pinged me the night before and they were like,
You're
we're
too
just doing an
critical.
attendance check. Can you make it to our event? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's the Giants Game 7. Why would you even be asking that?
So I sacrificed a couple of innings, and I'm glad that I did. I think that I just spent.
You sacrificed the early innings?
I did.
Where
I did.
all the interesting things happened?
I didn't miss everything, but I think that. I spent the next day or so sort of thinking about Amazon as a company and what it does, what it's supposed to do, and how its mobile strategy is just on its face doesn't make sense as a vertical play. But in talking to these folks who are, former Apple executives, it really just sounds like they just start from the standpoint of, well, let's just build something new that hasn't been done before, which is a fine and noble goal. But when you're talking about a full-fledged operating system and creating an immersive experience and being a lifestyle brand like Apple, they're just not Apple, right? So I think for a lot of smart people in the mobile industry, they really laughed off this phone initiative from the beginning. And again, it just makes sense. They're just not that kind of a company. But they're going to stick with it. They're going to, they mentioned to me, they sort of hinted at a low-end Amazon Fire phone to attack the low end. It might be too late for that, frankly. I think they maybe had an opportunity a couple of years ago to do something, a free phone.
And these are former Apple executives who are running this program?
Right, that's right.
So they're qualified individuals.
This is a tough. If you're Amazon and Facebook and maybe even Yahoo, if you're let's stick with Amazon and Facebook though, because these are incredibly successful companies that don't really have a legacy, like a legacy business that they're propping up. They have a strong core business. They don't own a mobile platform. Everybody wants to own the mobile platform. Everybody wants to own iOS. Everybody wants to own Android, but that's clearly not where they are. what do you do, right? I mean, it kind of feels like you have to try, even though I think everyone outside is like, you're never going to get there.
Yeah, well,
but like, I mean, it's like these.
if you're Amazon,
Sophie's choice, right? There's no way to like approach the mobile conundrum if you're Facebook or you're Amazon.
There is, because what you do is you do what Facebook did, which is basically, think 20 years ahead, go to the nascent mobile markets, make sure that Facebook is the internet for people there by striking all kinds of deals so that data for Facebook is discounted, or you're making products that are right for that market right now. And I think if you're early enough, you can get that distribution. And then if you feel like you don't,
long-term distribution is not really going to matter, because they're counting on distribution in markets that have not gotten smartphone penetration yet. And over a long enough period of time, the arc will move towards complete smartphone set. It's 100%, right? 10, 15 years, whatever that is. And at that point, that's where mobile was in America 10 or 15 years ago, right? Everybody who was going to be a major player in mobile back then had distribution deals with the carriers. And now distribution deals with the carriers gets you absolutely nothing. So that strategy does not work long term. Long term, the only way to survive is to actually own a platform that people use. So WhatsApp is like, a fantastic communications platform, but it's not a platform.
Do you think their play is to make WhatsApp phones or like Facebook phones?
know.
I mean, they've been
Could
talking
be.
about this for years, and they were actually working and exploring hardware. I mean, this is well known.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so easy to laugh at the Fire Phone, and I've certainly done some of that
So
myself.
laugh at
But
the
if you're
Surface,
Amazon, like,
but
what
now-
are you gonna do?
so this
You
is
do what
why-
Microsoft did. You take 5 swings at the bat, and now Surface 3 is being bought to the tune of almost $1 billion.
Creating
a
your
quarter.
own, recreating an ecosystem is very difficult. So I mean, you can
Definitely.
obviously look to what are the next platforms. So they buy Oculus, and Zuck's like, okay, well that's the next platform. But in the meantime, what's really interesting, and this is why I've been paying attention to a company called Cyanogen, which is an alternative Android distribution.
They forked Android.
So they didn't fork Android.
They rewrote it.
They what they do is they sort of live on top of it. They are compliant with Android compatibility tests. So they don't fork it, and they're able to they are able to have Google services on it for one of the devices that they're on. But they do actually want to recreate the app ecosystem, and they can do it because they're going to make it so easy for app developers to just get their stuff onto the Cyanogen platform. But what's interesting about it is they have basically a community of thousands of software modification nerds, right, who are taking Android and playing with it and trying to create new features for it. So they have their own vibrant sort of creation mechanism for creating new features that are maybe even ahead of where Google's version of Android is. So companies like Amazon and Facebook and others are looking at this company and saying, can we maybe partner with them? Are they worth buying so that we can leave our mark on Android, on the sort of non-Google part of Android?
But if you use Android, if Facebook were to use Android, they would have to put Google Maps, Gmail, Google Search, everything has to be on the desktop, the home screen.
Yeah, so there are a lot of requirements, but they don't have to do that. So they could do. So Amazon, right, uses a variant of Android. They do not sign the mobile application distribution agreement with Google. They do fork Android and change it up. But I think that there's a thought that if you have an alternative form of Android that is still compliant. With Google's version. You can make it easier for developers. You're not going to have to require them to do any work. And on top of that, you might have differentiated features that are like Android Plus features that are actually better than the current platform that exists today. So I think that's sort of what they're betting on, and particularly in countries like China, where there is no Google. Right. They can sort of partner with all the big heavyweights there, like Alibaba perhaps and others, to be an alternative.
It is fascinating, and the Nokia hardware is now all going to be branded Microsoft, so they've got a full stack there. So I wonder if the Microsoft stuff just completely out of play? Do you think? Because they don't have the app ecosystem?
I think they I think and sooner or later they're going to realize they have to hit the reset switch. They might need to
co-opt Android instead
Right.
instead of.
Well, I mean,
what they're
Nokia was
doing.
working on that. We know
Yeah.
that Nokia was working on building Android phones when they were acquired by Microsoft. We're probably not going to see those devices, but yeah, I mean, I think Microsoft has a big marketing problem. They may not necessarily have a product problem; they might have a marketing problem.
Right.
Nobody wants to build for Microsoft anymore. Nobody wants to build for Windows anymore. Even though Windows Phone is not Windows, it's still called Windows Phone.
Right.
I'm not saying that they can solve all their problems by renaming Windows Phone, but
There's a positioning
probably
problem
help.
here. Yeah, it's fascinating. And so, net, will Facebook ever, or let's say in the near term, being 3-5 years, you think they would ever get into the hardware business and make their own phones?
well, remember, Google didn't really get into the hardware business with Android. I mean, they
Right.
dabbled. We know that, but
Right.
I mean, they didn't genuinely make that, the core of their strategy, right? They built a platform and they said, let 1,000 Android flowers bloom.
Yeah,
But-
you're not going to want to own hardware
Right.
and manage it. But I think we should definitely expect to see Facebook experiment, because your point is very valid. I think that Zuckerberg does probably stay up at night wondering what is he going to do? Should he be concerned
Yeah.
that he doesn't own the platform, and are there partnerships that he could strike to deal with that? I think that's something that will continue to be a theme for the
I
foreseeable
think
future.
if I know it sounds crazy, but if they bought BlackBerry and they had the keyboard and the, pictures and everything, and they made a Facebook phone and a WhatsApp phone for typing and in the third world, and put out those BlackBerry had put out those really affordable, sort of emerging market phones that are hard, you could drop them, whatever. I think those would do tremendous with the Facebook or WhatsApp brand on them, because people there know it and they just give them away. Don't make any money on the hardware, don't make money on the software, just because all they care about is getting everybody online. That would be such an extraordinary thing for them to, not the one laptop per child level of bad, but just enough to get on WhatsApp, just enough to get on Facebook. Forget about the app ecosystem, just to get online and get a browser, take pictures, and just operate. That would create this walled garden where they could just give it to swaths of people in India.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
And they
know
could
about
recreate
that because
AOL.
RIM is not a low-end phone company.
Right, they're expensive with the hardware.
Yeah, I mean, we'll call them mid-range, right? But they're not a $100
Right, but
with a $25 BOM.
Let's call it a keyboard-like BlackBerry-like phone. Can you imagine if they put that out and unleashed it on the third world? I mean,
So they did do that thing, their Facebook phone with HTC.
Yeah.
And that was not an expensive phone. That was targeted towards the lower end. Did not perform very well anywhere it was released. So I don't think it's a given that just because it has the Facebook brand on it
Yeah.
and they own it, that it's going to succeed. And they know this. I mean, if they thought that was all they needed to win in the mobile space, they would have done that already.
you know what I think is a huge sleeper right now that I keep hearing coming up over and over and over again is Chromebooks. Every school now is using Chromebooks, and they're so cheap and they're so light in terms of the IT footprint, where kids just go up and they take one off the stack and they log in with their Google credentials, and it just works. Your desktop, your bookmarks, everything is just in the cloud, and it's almost like Larry Ellison's original, or Sun Microsystem's original dumb terminal. What did they call that back in the day? It was just cheap.
Or the thin client.
The thin client, right?
Yeah.
So sort of like thin client, you just turn it on and it's so fast and so easy to use that I think that these things are going to be in the developing worlds and other places $99, $199 laptops. You log in with your Google and your whole persona is up there. So if you just think about computing as your persona, that's where I think just if they
Aren't kids doing homework with their phones now? Do they even
Really?
need laptops anymore?
do they really do homework on their phones?
Yeah, you hear that all
LOL.
the time. You hear that all the time.
That is hysterical. Can you imagine oh my God, OMG, Abraham Lincoln, LOL, cherry tree,
I wouldn't go that far. But,
selfie.
It's not reductive at all, Jason.
All right, listen, it's been an amazing episode. Thanks so much to Amir and Ryan. Just follow Amir or Ryan or Jason. How's that, huh? And follow Launch and at TWI Startups and all the other premium Twitter handles on the show. What a great episode. Thanks to WeWork for hosting us. They've been such a great partner. And go to twistlist.co. If you made it to this point in the show, you probably want to get on the secret Google group called twistlist.co. Twistlist.co. You join that little membership club, and you can talk to everybody on the show. And thanks again to Brandon, John, Luke, Drew. What a great show we had with the Scale event. We had the Scale event, and like no press allowed. 900 people showed up. We didn't make any money or anything, but we just all learned how to scale companies. It was like literally the best event I've ever done.
You don't think the press needs to learn too?
No, the problem is if you bring the press, like if you had asked to come, I would let you come off the record, but or maybe. But I basically told everybody who's a speaker and everybody there, like it's off the record, you can't blog it, you can't do anything, and everybody was very open for the first time because they didn't feel like the gotcha press was going to be there. See, I consider the information like I don't even consider you guys like press. I consider you guys like documentarians of what's going on or whatever, or researchers. Like, but if you invite TechCrunch or you invite all these other knuckleheads, like they're just gonna like take somebody's quote out of context and try to like stick it to them, kind of a thing, you know? I don't want that kind of nonsense. So I just banned the press from it. It was like so delightful to not have any press there.
Makes sense.
Anyway, whatever. Hey, welcome to the team, Nathan Flick and Julian and Emily. Gosh, we're gonna miss you. You were so great, and you did so much amazing work here. Gosh, Emily, you are a force here, and you're going to do great stuff in the future. And thanks to Bing, Citrix, Sharefile, and Envision for sponsoring the programs. You got anything to plug, Ryan? Plug?
Yeah.
What?
We got a new show. I'm doing these. Oh my God.
Woo, here we go.
It's called MVP.
MVP.
I do it with our old friend Peter Rojas.
Peter Rojas?
Oh my God.
The founder of Gizmodo and Engadget?
We stole your producer. Shout out to Jacob. He's doing the shows.
What? You didn't tell me that.
Actually, I did.
You did? Oh, I did say you guys could do the first couple episodes. Yeah, that's fine. Awesome, good. Yeah, no, I'm allowing Jacob to do you and Tim Ferriss's show because then I can insert myself into it, and then I'm going to try to take the three of you got the three shows and package them.
Okay, we'll see.
That's
about
my
that.
idea. So, is there a website for this now? The MVP show?
MVPtheshow.com.
Okay, there you go. Everybody check out MVPtheshow.com.
It's running on fantastic This Week in Startups / launch sponsor Squarespace.
Ah, very cool. And what do you talk about on MVP the show? I have an idea.
We talk about products. We talk about technology products.
That's it.
That's
just
all
product.
we talk about.
It's
just
sort of like product hunt for that. And how many?
We're a couple months in.
There you go.
Yeah.
I haven't even been following this.
Oh, God, Jason.
Do you tweet this?
I do. Yeah, not like super aggressively, but I
a little more aggressive in the production.
I talk a little bit about it.
Awesome. Well, that looks
Mention
amazing.
the
Amir,
new-
what should we
the new
plug
shows.
over here?
Theinformation.com.
Which is only $399, and if you use
year.
the promo code TWiST, you get it for $399.
That's correct.
All right, good. So everybody use the promo code. But well over 1,000 subscribers now. You got 8 people working there. You guys are making at least like 40 or 50 grand each.
Only 1,000? Really?
Well over
That's
1,000
so
is what
low.
Jessica said on publicly. So let's
Okay.
just say it's called 1,500 or 2,000 even.
Yikes. Okay.
2,000 would be 800,000 a year.
Okay.
I know that you're making upwards of $42,000 a year or something like that. So you guys are profitable.
32. Yeah.
32, right? Starting salary at the information. No, but I mean, if you have 8 people making 100K each, it's actually break even. I mean, you guys might make a little more than that, but
It's a real business.
it's a
put it that
legitimate
way.
real business now all of a sudden. And everybody said you couldn't do it. How
But
many
the,
months
but the
in are
product is good. I mean, the content is good. It's
tremendous.
If the content is good, it works. If the content is bad, it doesn't work. It's very simple.
you? What is the sense over there? Like, are you guys like, hey, we figured this out? Or, hey, we got a lot more work to do?
Oh, both. I mean, it's both. It's like any startup, right? I
Right.
mean, you're always like, thinking about the next thing. But yeah,
It's not like you're going anywhere, though.
No, it feels great. I mean, it's it's creating a safe haven of quality content that you're not going to regret clicking on.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love it. And completely sustainable now. It's kind of a first as a journalist, isn't it? That you don't ever feel like you're looking over your shoulder, like how are we going to make money? And
well, in this market for tech reporters, it's
Yeah.
a really good market. So
it's ridiculous.
You,
So
you can
overpaid.
you can
If you're
be,
good.
Well, yeah, if you're
you're
good,
good.
yes,
Yeah, but
always.
there are people who
even
are
if
bad
you're,
who are
even
overpaid.
if you're bad, you're getting bidding wars over you, and I'm flabbergasted when I hear some of these stories. It's a really good time. We're in that
Dude, did I
part of
get
the
did I
cycle.
get out at the wrong moment?
Totally.
But it's a cycle, right?
What do you think David Poe got at Yahoo? $1 million.
Too much, but
Had to get
I
a
don't.
million,
I don't
right?
talk about Poe.
No, let's do some.
Does anyone go to Yahoo Tech?
No, it's a disaster.
No, definitely
Okay,
not.
Complete disaster.
I don't know what.
But
the
I
value
mean, they
prop is.
probably gave him $1 million, right? We have to.
Probably.
David Pogue. who can't even write. I mean, he's just a bad writer. Like, you ever read his stuff? It's just not.
It's not good.
It's not well written.
Look,
And he's not very knowledgeable.
we're veering into hater territory now.
I'm not
All right?
hating. I'm just saying, who in their right mind?
I'm not hating, but this guy is just total garbage, and
I
he's
didn't
like
say
the thing he
garbage,
does
but-
for a living is just completely invalid.
It's not that. It's that. When was the last time he had a scoop on anything? When was the last time he wrote something and anybody said, like,
Well,
wow, that's incredibly insightful?
In fairness, he's not a scoop technology writer. But
when's the last time
But
even
even a scoop of
tweeted?
idea. I think Jason's talking about a
Yes.
scoop of idea, not like.
Well, no, but okay, yeah. So, but you're right, right? He's not. So we can't. He's not going to be Kara Swisher saying like, "This is what happened in the Yahoo board meeting because I." Like,
was there.
yeah,
because Kara Swisher basically.
I put radios in there.
I don't know what she's done at
microphones.
Yahoo, but like she must know the construction people who built the conference
She
room.
hasn't written about Yahoo in quite a while. It's actually
Yeah.
been a good 6 or 9 months. since
Yeah,
she's
they
done something
basically
there.
plugged the holes, I guess, when they turned over the board. But it's like nobody's ever saying like you have to read this David Pogue piece. I think like maybe that's like you're right. Like people are just getting these huge checks thrown at them for what?
But Yahoo's still
But you
pretty.
do have to read the latest Amir piece.
Yahoo's still pretty amazing. I just had a friend who wrote for their new parenting vertical, and the story got 11 million page views.
Yeah, because they
And,
put it on the homepage.
I'm not sure if it was on the Yahoo homepage.
I can guarantee it was on the Yahoo homepage. If
to
you
get
got
that
11
much?
million page views.
It could be.
That's how it
You
works.
didn't
That's how it
mention
works
that.
at AOL.
Yeah,
You put it on the homepage.
it's
if
still
you wanna drive
amazing.
traffic
It's an
to it.
amazing.
Yep.
They're gonna have that for a long time.
God, Yahoo just needs to stop everything and put everything behind video. Because they went from display advertising, and display advertising and video advertising are so simpatico that as display dies, video grows. It's almost like it's the same budget in a way. It's like we're stopping these banner ads and we're moving into YouTube pre-rolls or Facebook pre-rolls or whatever. They should just put everything behind video. Everything else is on maintenance mode. Keep up email, don't fall behind, obviously, don't lose it. But just video, 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 video. Hire 100 personalities for, like they did with David Pogue, but like talented people, and just get like.
It's a good topic for another discussion. Yahoo and video. It's a good one to cover.
They should just do. Don't you think that's what you would do?
They have a lot of challenges, and they made a bid for Community. They're getting Community episodes, but they way overpaid for it, and people in Hollywood think they're crazy.
It's stupid.
So-
They should just go to the top YouTube stars and say, keep your YouTube channel on like maintenance mode, where you do 1 video a week and then 3 videos here. And the 1 video there says continued on Yahoo.
But the economics, I don't know that they can figure out the economics to make it work.
It's
for
the
those-
economics
for
are
those
called
stars.
investment. Investment. They know exactly what those stars are making. They're making 1 million, 500,000, 2 million, 3 million over there. You just outbid them and guarantee it, and then tell them you're going to give them the homepage slots. If they're getting the homepage traffic, boom, just grab 100 of them.
But making the economics work anyway. This is for next time. Next
But
episode.
they spend $1 billion on Tumblr. So instead of spending the $1 billion on Tumblr, just invest in those top 100 YouTube stars and get Michelle Pham and this one and that one over. Maybe
Easier said than done.
Michelle Pham's train's left the station, but the next 3. All right, anyway, listen. Good luck to them over there. I think they'll figure it out, and we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups. Bye-bye.